What I want to do is, this is what I talked about yesterday on the show. This is from Trading View, because I posted it over there because I have some followers there that wanted me to do that. What was interesting is I had Rachel, who just graduated from the course. She came back and threw this is a 1 hour chart. And you can see down here that as this coin went from 19 to 26, volume didn't come in heavy. You can see it's kind of downtrending across the bottom. And then after we made the jump or up thrust, volume did come in pretty heavy. So if you look at that, because I'm showing that as a jump and a backup, which normally you're going to want strong volume on the jump, and you're going to want volume to fall off on the backup. I mean, that's a Wyckoff basically rule. So if we come back here and do the 1 day, it's not going to show it as well. Dang. Here we are. Because what she sent me then is she sent me this chart. This is the same chart. I was doing an hourly. She brings up the 1 day. So she has the markings I have. On the 1 day, her resistance line is higher than mine, which makes it look a little bit more like we're up thrusting. That line was coming in at 24.20. I had it more like at 23.75 or something. That's just from different charts, etc. So that made her chart look a little bit less like a jump. But what her concern was, I think, was as we rallied up here from point 1, volume was falling off, which you have to agree. And then as we up thrust the 28, that looks more like an up thrust on big volume. So I totally agree with what she's saying, and none of these charts, they're not perfect like the courses when they discuss a chart. We pull the most perfect chart to make it easy. So yeah, it would matter where you had this resistance. But what I want to show is when she shows us on volume, it makes you think, you know what, she's really right. And that kind of takes away from what I was saying. And then my reply to that, though, is if you want to go back, this is ZEN on bounce volume 5 minute. So the top line is ZEN on a 5 minute, where she was concerned that volume was not coming in and volume was coming in heavy off the top. But down at the bottom, the blue line is the on bounce of volume 5 minute, which, as anyone on there that's been here for a while knows, that that's what Wyckoff is watching. So if you look at that, you do see continued uptrending volume. And yes, some volume did come in on the backup, but we had no sell volume coming in on today's test. And some of this was when Bitcoin was falling off. So you can see these large bars of red, but it didn't turn into really a lot of net volume, because you got to understand, I talked about this before, this bar here in black that has the huge red volume, that's what concerned her. But you got to understand that that day, if we would have net closed a penny higher, all that volume would have been called green plus volume. So we don't take volume on a daily basis, because a lot of that volume that's being shown as a daily red volume bar, a lot of that volume could have been on the upside. And so if you break it down on 5 minute data and add it up for the day, you would not get a huge red bar like that. That's what the 5 minute on bounce volume is telling you, that a lot of that volume, even that day, was green volume. And even though volume was declining somewhat on a daily basis, it still was trending up pretty well here on the 5 minute on bounce volume. So that's why, I'm still a little more comfortable, but that all this action is how I called it. But definitely, if she's right, I mean, we've had an up thrust, we're testing the up thrust, and we'll come unglued to the downside. So, but I think, again, I'm trying to think that Bitcoin's still trying to put in a low here, and this coin is acting a little bit better the last few days. So if it's acting better recently, that's why we're looking for stronger coins, because it's acting better in the face of markets that aren't doing much. So I think that's a sign of strength there, that it's outperforming a little bit, which says it's not an up thrust.
I think the fact that she's a recent graduate and still
Yeah, just
had
did.
the knowledge and the courage to be like, hey, Todd, this is kind of what I'm seeing. What do you think?
Right.
I think really, puts emphasis on how good the course really is and what it really is teaching. And then, like we said yesterday with this move, when Todd did all the markings on it, that it was almost textbook Wyckoff. And I just think that's interesting that applied like that.
And then I think, when we talk about stops and things, I've talked about lack of stops here on this sell-off and different things because we're looking to hold long-term for, triples and quadruples and 10 bangers or whatever. If you think Bitcoin's going to 100,000 or 36,000, whatever. But if you're doing this trade right here, I mean, you can look at a point and figure and try to figure out the upside. You can put a 3-to-1 risk-reward ratio, or if you buy this today, I mean, this thing, if she's correct, I mean, a move back to 22 would look suspect. A move, back below 20 suspect. So it gives you, the roadblock to try to put on a better risk-reward trade. And, then use stops to make sure you don't get yourself into trouble. And if it starts moving higher, add on, et cetera, trail stops, et cetera. So, yeah, I think it's good as she pointed that out. And again, I mean, it's not textbook jump and a backup. I did that because it has performed better recently. It looks like there's some outperformance internally. And the volume don't look as bad as what she stated, I don't think. If you look at 5 minutes on balance, which I think you have to look at, you can't look at daily. And some of these selling climaxes, and also if you go, I had these preliminary supplies marked here to the left, and a lot of times a preliminary supply will actually be the point where you have the backup, and you can see that that's almost perfect here for this preliminary supply at 22. We almost touched that yesterday. So a backup could end at the same point the preliminary supply comes in. And what that means is a preliminary supply is when people in the know decided to come back in and support it. And they were doing that in the 20 to 22 area, which I showed you on the daily chart was previous support and resistance. So that's an important area. So if the insiders, composite man came into this coin at 22 to support it, that will be where they support it again over here on the right side. That's why the backup and the preliminary supply might be at the same area. So again, I could be totally wrong here. We could collapse, but this is still a trade you're looking for. If you find trades like this and put them on, you will be successful over time if you keep your losses to a minimum and let your winners run. That's all.